All right, everyone, and we are live.
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is KC Reacts Live, and welcome very much. I am Chris Barrett. I'm going to be your host tonight. Kevin Hammer, unfortunately, is feeling under the weather. So, on this show, returning back from our break, he is not going to be here. During our break, we took the time to get to learn from the few episodes that we did put out in order to rework the show a little bit. That's what we were doing while we were gone. We were kind of reworking the show and trying to turn it into something that's a little closer to professional. Now, obviously, it's not going to be totally 100% professional because we are a pretty much no budget show. So anyway, you get what you get at this point, and I think that we're doing pretty good. Anyway, I thought I'd take the opportunity tonight to talk a little bit about my past, how I came to be a Republican, because I haven't always been a Republican, and then also how a few issues are affecting my campaign and kind of what I think about them. We have done a show on my campaign before, but we never really touched on the background, kind of never talked so much about me becoming a Republican. And as time has gone on over the past few months since I announced my candidacy for District 21 in Independence, Missouri, I've had more time to learn about these issues and a little bit more with the details with them. So while I'm talking tonight, I do want to let you know that we do have a comment section. It looks like Vinny has already weighed in. So be sure to leave comments, maybe ask questions as we're going along, because I am here by myself and I'd love to interact with you guys. So why don't we just go ahead and dive in, talk about this a little bit. You know, my background. Who am I? How did I get into politics? What is wrong with my head? Basically, is kind of what it feels like. Anyway, how did I get into politics? Well, over the years, I had been somewhat active in politics here and there. Back in the end of the 1990s and the early part of the 21st century, I, worked with various Democrat campaigns, and certainly got a little bit of a basic understanding. I'm not like a political science major or anything like that. And then after my 20s, kind of 30s zipped by, wasn't really, I ended up not being too politically active. And then some things among the Democrats, and especially the left, kind of started changing a little bit, but I still stuck with it. But something really started irritating me after a while, and that's some of the stuff that I started seeing changing within the supposed LGB, and then adding on a ton of other letters community, and especially it was this kind of like reaching out to kids and wanting to talk to kids, have drag shows for kids, all this type of stuff. And that really started bothering me. I just didn't understand why people, full grown adults, needed to talk about those things, like why they're dressed up and why they're a man dressed up in women's clothing. I had no idea why that was important for a kid to know anything about that. I certainly didn't think that it was appropriate to have conversations with little kids about sexual orientation, those types of things. And then also this thing called queer theory and all this type of stuff, which is like absolutely insane. I was like, something bad is going on here. Something evil is kind of like going after kids, and that's kind of how it felt. And I really pulled back from the larger community, if you will. But I needed to, step back even further and just kind of separate myself and observe a little bit. And then the kind of like, I guess you could say, um, the straw that broke the camel's back was when I started seeing this stuff about gender transitions for kids. I had no idea that that was something that even took place. So not only were people claiming to be doing something in my name, uh, going after kids with drag shows and pride events geared towards kids, but now they are going after kids in a medical way, in a mental way, that is especially damaging. That was the thing that finally got me off my butt. That really did. I was like, I've got to do something, and so I did. First it started off kind of online activism, so to speak, but then I really wanted to expand what I was doing, make a greater impact. Because I was getting so much pushback from the left and other Democrats. Mind you, I was still considering myself kind of a Democrat, even though I had stepped back and then stepped further back from it. But the thing is I looked around. I found this group called the LGBT Alliance. They were doing some good stuff. I saw some groups over in the UK that were starting to speak out against these things, and I was like, okay, great, great. I need to find something like that. And then I finally did come across the right organization, and I teamed up with them, and I started traveling throughout the country, going before city council meetings, school boards, state legislatures. I've been to multiple state legislatures. And speaking out against some of these things, the drag shows for kids, the inappropriate pride events for kids. Well, pride events for kids altogether are inappropriate, but that's another story. And then also so called gender affirming care for children, or as I say it because it's much more plain, child sex changes, because it's absolutely what they're doing. It's child sex changes. So all of that type of stuff really was great. I was feeling like a difference was being made. I got a chance to meet some fantastic people and work with them and work to make a difference in states like Tennessee and Colorado and Missouri, my home state. It's amazing how many lives that you can touch when you start doing this type of stuff. But I really truly believe that I was doing things for good, and I think that's kind of the funny thing, because I think that a lot of my detractors think that I'm just some sort of evil person who doesn't care about so-called trans kids. And nothing could be further from the truth. I absolutely do care. And because I don't believe in gender ideology, I don't believe in transgenderism at all. I want to save these kids from that sort of thing, and all the other stuff that goes along with it. So that kind of, now that you're getting the idea that I became essentially a political activist. That's what it is. And the good thing is I started spending a fair amount of time in Jefferson City, Missouri, our state's capital. And I found out that pretty much the Republican legislators, representatives, and senators were pretty much the only ones that I could actually work with. Then I started started noticing the groups that I was working with, and they were all conservative groups. Well, that caused a change in me, for sure. First of all, I was told that, someone like me, especially someone who's coming from the left and that sort of thing, that I was going to be, you know, thrown away very quickly, just totally dismissed by people on the right or Republicans or whatever the case may be. And like I said, as I started working with these folks, nothing could be further from the truth. Now, am I saying that it's 100% perfect over on the right? No. I have plenty of criticism for that, but for them. But the thing is that nothing's going to be 100% perfect. Never expect that, guys. But the thing is I started realizing I align with them on so much stuff that I was realizing that it was becoming like 85, 90%, 95% of everything I was agreeing with. I think when you're hitting those thresholds, especially like when you're talking about like, gosh, I agree with them on 95% of everything, it's maybe time to make a change. And I was wondering, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm constantly fighting with other people who call themselves left or Democrat or whatever. I'm constantly fighting with them. I couldn't find anyone who agreed with me on the issue of child sex changes and the drag shows and all that type of stuff on the left. I mean, come to find out, there are some good people on the left who actually are against that stuff, but it took a while for me to find a significant number. Let's put it that way. But I just decided, this is it. And finally, oh gosh, what was it? 3 years ago, I finally, for the first time in my life, yeah, it was 3 years ago, finally, on the first time in my life, cast a 100% Republican ticket. Now, I think that there's probably some people out there that might be kind of concerned, it's like, hey, this guy's new, he's not going to be a real Republican. Well, I don't know if you've ever noticed that, people who kind of like have been on the other side, so to speak, and they've come to an awakening of sorts, an awakening to the Republican Party like I did. We tend to be the most staunch defenders of that new stuff, of that new situation, whether it's, a party or whatever the case may be. Maybe you're inherited to a new religion or whatever, but you tend to be a pretty, you're a staunch defender. Yeah, for sure. So anyway, that's kind of what I became. And so I really do think that you don't have anything to worry about. I'm solidly conservative, and I'm definitely a Republican. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. But I want to give some thanks to the people who have been so welcoming on the right. You guys have been wonderful. I've made so many wonderful new friends. I couldn't be as different from so many of you as could be. I'm so different from so many of you is what I mean to say. But you look past those differences and you've kind of created a new family. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to take a second here and turn to the comments. Vinny and Chris have been talking. So anyway, and actually Kevin did check in now. I'll throw this up real quick. Thanks, Kevin. It was kind of nice of you. He's under the weather, but still here to support. He's going to rest now. And then, of course, vote Chris Bear for Missouri House of Representatives. Thanks. That's Kevin, my co-host. I really appreciate that, Kevin. But Chris brought up kind of a good point here, and I kind of like this. He said that the sad part is most people, he says that people are brainwashed by the media and that sort of thing, and that's true, and Chris is actually a friend of mine, and so he would know more than anybody else because he's known me ever since I was a teenager. He had known more than anybody else how caught up in the brainwashed crap I was. I mean, I was so caught up in it. And, Chris and I went back and forth and that sort of stuff, say 5, 10, well, more than 5 years ago, but like, say 10 years ago. I mean, I was like really into this stuff. But, thankfully, again, there's people out there like Chris who, just treat me like a normal person. They're just probably thankful that I've seen the light. And so then, like Chris just said, and I think this is true. Most people, I think reasonable people do pretty much agree, and I think it's a matter of whether you're going to allow yourself to be a reasonable person. And so there you go. I am trying to be a very reasonable person, and I think that's a good thing. It's like, yeah, I'm a Republican, but I know what Democrats are scared of and what they're dealing with and that sort of thing. So I think that kind of gives me an advantage when it comes to maybe needing to work with them in the future. I mean, that's kind of why, on my campaign materials that go out, it says common sense candidate, and I mean, that's really what I want to be. It's like I don't want to circle the wagons all the time because I hate it when the left does it. I don't like it when the right does it. You know, let's move forward. Let's push, a conservative agenda, but, an agenda that we can all live with and support and bring people from the other side to get on board with it. It's about reaching out. And I think that because I've been on both sides, I can do that. And anyway, guys, thanks for those comments. So anyway, yeah, there's a little bit more about my background. So now I'd like to talk about some of the campaign issues. I was showing this here, and so this is starting to get out and about around town. And there's a few things on the back of this. This is what they call a palm card. And there's some information on the back about, things that I'm standing up for. But there's three, I guess you could say, that are like really super important issues for me. And so those are the ones that I'd like to kind of focus in on. And also invite you guys who are watching to maybe chime in with some questions or comments or something like that on the things that I'm going to bring up. So the first thing that I'd like to talk about is constitutional rights. Now, I mean, this is, protecting constitutional rights and upholding them is absolutely got to be a foundational thing for any lawmaker. It just has to be. You have to go in to your job realizing that you are protecting the U.S. Constitution, but also, in my case, the state constitution, the Constitution of the state of Missouri. So yeah, you'll look on my campaign literature and you'll see something about upholding constitutional rights. And it's like, okay, what does that mean? What does it mean to uphold constitutional rights, especially if you're a legislator? Well, I can tell you how you do that. First of all, it's what I'm going to do. If a bill comes across my desk that is against the United States Constitution or violates the Missouri Constitution, it will not have my support, period. I don't care how good it is. I don't care how many people are supposedly going to be helped by it or anything like that. No amount of, tugging at my heartstrings is going to work. If it's unconstitutional, if it violates the Constitution, it is not getting my support. So I think that that's one way. So let's talk about a few examples. Second Amendment rights, that sort of thing. I'm not going to vote for something that is, restricting legal gun ownership. I simply am not going to do that. We do have a constitutional right. I'm not going to vote for something that I see as limiting religious freedom. I believe that we should all be free to practice our beliefs and do so without any sort of persecution here in this country. It is okay to believe in God, but it's also okay not to believe in God. That's the other flip side of religious freedom. We don't want our citizens having to do things that are against their good conscience, and so it's a tricky issue, but still, I think that is something that, is upholding constitutional rights, especially of the First Amendment when it comes to religious freedom. So that's kind of a way that I'm going to do that, and then, of course, that kind of brings me into the next thing as far as like upholding constitutional rights and the people who sort of help make sure that our rights are carried out in the world. And that's going to be our wonderful first responders. Our first responders, I'm talking about, ensuring some of our constitutional rights because they're out there protecting our lives. The police officers, firefighters, paramedics, any EMS worker for that matter. They're out there protecting our lives, and without our lives, those constitutional rights don't mean anything. So, this is the next thing that I kind of want to talk about. What can we do from a state level? Because that's the level of office that I'm running for, a state level position. What can we do at a state level to support first responders? And over time, I've kind of come to the conclusion that, not even a conclusion, it's just obvious. We're dealing with understaffed police departments. Some of them are not getting the equipment that they need, those types of things. So those are issues that we absolutely need to deal with. And so I just want to look at from the state level, what can we do to fix that? For police departments, fire departments, and EMS services across the state of Missouri. I think that we can do better for these people and support them. We always love to turn out for them at those emotional times, those happy times, but we got to turn out for them at the ballot box. We've got to turn out for them and giving them the financial support and supportive manpower that they need, those types of things. So, let's get out there and do that. And guys, this isn't going to be like a super long show tonight. As you know, a lot of our shows go on for sometimes upwards of a couple hours. But since this is just me, I'm just going to kind of tell you a few of these things that I care about, talk about a few of these things that I care about, and try to, just let you know a little bit more about me, but not stretch this on until all hours of the night. So bear with me. We're actually almost done. So lastly, something that is one of the more important, I guess you could say, social issues for me is mental health care. If any of you live in Independence, Missouri, you'll know that there's quite a homeless problem here, but there are in cities across the state of Missouri. So that homelessness issue kind of brings me to the mental health care thing. I've done a lot of looking into this, and one of the biggest reasons people end up on the streets is because they have some sort of mental health issue or some sort of substance abuse issue. But substance abuse and mental health are closely entwined. I mean, they really are. So they're both fall under the mental health care umbrella. So I think that, with expanding mental health care, we can also address not only the mental health care crisis in the state of Missouri, but we can also address homelessness as well. So how could we do that? Well, there are facilities that do offer mental health care to people regardless of their ability to pay. So that helps everybody. And the facilities that I have in mind are not-for-profits. There is one in Independence, it's called Comprehensive Mental Health Care. I am going to set up a meeting with the CEO. I'd like to learn a little bit more about some of their needs as well. But anyway, they do have housing facilities and then a mental health care clinic, a very well-equipped, big mental health care clinic. So ideally, people who are homeless could be brought into a place, given a place to stay, rehabilitated through their mental health care needs, and then put back into society to become productive members of society. But Chris, everything you're saying sounds really good, but it also sounds like a big government program. No. If you know anything about me now, you know that I'm not going to be pushing some sort of big government program. So how would this look if I had my way 100%? Well, it'd look a little something like this. First of all, it would look like the situation that I was talking about with comprehensive mental health care, where people throughout the community, regardless of whether you're homeless or not, can get access to mental health care regardless of your ability to pay. That's great. Then homeless people are given a place to stay while being given mental health care treatment. That's great too. So that's one thing that it would look like. But the other thing that it would look like is it's going to be a not-for-profit. What I would like to see done is maybe something like a public-private partnership where the state of Missouri, possibly through grants or something along those lines, would encourage not-for-profit organizations to start mental health care clinics throughout the state. That way we could provide an incentive for these groups to help them get off the ground so they can actually open their doors. And then there are kind of like technical things like making sure a CEO is not making too much money or the outcomes are what we would expect or something like that in order to continue getting that funding. So we'd set very high standards on the state level as to what these not-for-profits would have to live up to in order to continue getting state money. And so then that would be a protection for the taxpayer to make sure that money isn't getting wasted. So we'd already have a mechanism built in to make sure that that's not the case. And then, best of all, along with my vision is government isn't setting the standards of care. No DEI is being brought into it, forced down anybody's throats by the government. No, what we're doing is we're just simply making it so that it is attractive for people to start these types of facilities here in the state of Missouri, and even more importantly to me, as the potential representative for District 21, I want to see more of these in Independence and surrounding areas as well. So I think that we'll see a lot of benefits towards society by doing that. And let's not forget, there is a fentanyl crisis going on. Again, that goes along with behavioral health, addiction, all falling underneath the mental health care umbrella. So we can talk all we want about fentanyl's bad, the homelessness problem, that's terrible. But I'm not really hearing anybody talk so much about doing anything unless it's some big government program. Everybody wants to spend a bunch of money on this and turn it into a government program, but they don't seem to want to say, okay, well, government can be a part of the solution, but there's all these other really well-equipped private entities out there that already know how to do this. Let's not reinvent the wheel with the government. And if you've ever talked to anyone who's been in a state mental health care facility anyway, you will quickly learn that these are not the greatest places on earth. I frankly wouldn't send the dog of my enemy to one. So there you go. All right, guys, that's kind of what I have for you tonight. This is, like I said, going to be a little bit of a shorter show. I was counting on about 30 minutes. We're at the 30-minute mark. I'll give you all just a couple more minutes to chime in on the chat if there's any questions or anything like that you have. Want to talk to me something completely different that I didn't even touch on tonight that you might be kind of interested in talking about, that is perfectly fine to me. But if not, that's okay too. Lastly, guys, thank you, Vinny. Vinny wants me to be in office, so that's good. That is very good. But let me go ahead and start kind of wrapping up while I wait for any potential messages to come in. Down here, like this, you'll see it says www.barrettformo.com. Okay. barrettformo.com. That is my website for my campaign. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Go there, sign up to volunteer. You can also send me an email if you have any questions. That email address that I believe is on there goes directly to me. But if it's not on there, if they haven't put that on there, it's chris@barrettformo.com. You can email me, ask me any questions. It goes directly to me. The last but unfortunately important thing that I need to point out that you can do there is you can also donate to my campaign. Running for office, probably one of the weirdest things to do is to have to ask people for money. And you start getting really good at it and you start being a little less embarrassed. But all I can say is I'm a little less embarrassed to ask. I'm still embarrassed to ask. It's just so weird. But I do need the money. I mean, we are talking tens of thousands of dollars in order to run a campaign for House of Representatives, at least to have a realistic chance at winning. So if you can help, it'd be greatly appreciated. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been wonderful. And next week, Kevin and I are going to be coming back together. We're going to be talking about something else that affects Missouri, and that is the SAFE Act going before the Missouri Supreme Court. This is actually going to be something that will probably have ramifications for the entire country to a certain degree. It might be kind of a precedent setting. Oh, by the way, just going back to this current episode real quick, Chris Ford said doing a fundraiser. Absolutely. I will be putting out information about that through social media and my website. But for the time being, since I don't have anything like that set up, you can very easily go to barrettformo.com and set up a donation. And the great thing about going through the website, even if you do come in person to a fundraiser, is it's very easy to set up recurring donations. So if you want to set up a monthly donation or something like that, that works too. So that's something that can be done. But yes, we will be doing fundraisers throughout the next year for sure. But anyway, back to next week's episode. We will be talking about the SAFE Act, and that I think it's going to be kind of like it'll kind of measure the temperature of where courts may go with state Supreme Courts may go with some of these issues regarding child sex changes and the bans on that particular practice. So we'll that'll be an interesting one to talk about, and we do hope to have a special guest on for that, somebody who is in the Missouri legislature itself. So that should be a good show. So come on back next week, next Monday at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, and join us and chime in, and Kevin will be here. Anyway, that said, it's been great, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next week.
Alright, everyone, and we are live.